Hi guys and welcome to the channel. So today I thought I would revisit one of my previous videos and I thought I'd take another look at my Presonus 1810C. Having used it for a couple of years, I've learned a little bit more about how best to use it, and the old video was a little bit long. So anyone looking at this can go on to Presonus's website themselves and they can see what ports are on the back. Rather than going through all of that, I thought I'd pick up on a few specific points. So if we take a look at the back here, we have two sets of inputs, three sets of outputs. In addition to that, we have this optical in, the Toslink port. You need to be aware this is not BDIF, this is an ADAT. So you can't just connect an optical cable from your motherboard sound card into this because it won't work. On the other hand, we have got these two coax ports, which are SPDIF. One of them's an input, one of them's an output. So if your sound card has an optical output, such as this one, then you can connect a coax cable directly from your computer to the back. This is pretty much the only sound card I could find that had it on. It's an expensive sound card and it's aimed much more at audiophile type thing as opposed to the professional market that the 1810C is aimed at. On the front here we have 4 XLR ports in 2 pairs. We have a phantom power button here. Phantom power does apply to all of them simultaneously. You can't pick and choose which ones have phantom power and which ones don't, and you can independently control the gain on each of the 4 XLR ports with these little knobs. There's 2 headphone outputs on the back which each have their own volume knob, and there's also a volume knob for the main output. Overall it feels really solid. It gets a little bit warm after it's been on for a few hours. It is directly powered off the mains. As a result, it has the better Xmax preamps. Even though it's independently powered, it does need the computer on. You can't just set it up the way you want to and then unplug it and take it elsewhere, plug it back in and it work without the computer. There is a bit of a trick you can do if you can keep the power on. For example, over here I have my work laptop. Work won't let me install the drivers for the 1810C in it, so if I plug it in, it won't do anything. However, what I was able to do was connect it through the analog cables, but what I would have to do is cycle my own computer every morning before I turn it on. You turn on the 1810C, turn on your own computer, it loads it up with the profiles that you've set up inside it, turn off your own computer. Now, providing you don't turn off the 1810C, it does remember the profile that your own computer loaded it up. I can then plug it into my work laptop with the analog connections and the 1810C knows what to do. If you want to adjust any of the settings, you can only do it through your own computer. It's a bit of a nuisance, but it is a workaround if you really need that. So this is a multi-track audio interface. Now, some audio interfaces, they have lots of ports on them, but what the computer sees is just one stereo pair. You've got your left and your right, and it's a mix of all the lefts and all the rights through the various ports. That's not the case here. They are all independent, and I'll show you that on the computer now. So looking at the software then and how it interfaces with the computer, I'm going to do this on Windows 11. It is pretty much the same on Windows 10. Some of the layout is slightly different on the Windows side, but it's the same on the audio interface itself. So we have universal control. It will detect all the devices you have. I've only got the 1810C plugged in. I click on it there and it gives you all of the inputs. So now I will come back to this, but just quickly look, if you go up into this here, into this settings section. Now in here, there's a couple of settings that I'll tell you about now because it'll make more sense. So first off, we have show ADAT and we have this bypass mode. If we do show ADAT, what it'll show, it adds a whole load more channels. So you've got all these ADAT here. Now those come through that optical port on the back, and there's only a handful of pieces of kit that will allow you to use those. So in most cases you want to have that turned off just to avoid the clutter. Now the other one is mixer bypass. Now if we click that, now you see all of this is grayed out. So the 1810C has this built-in mixer, but you can turn it off, and I want to show you with it turned off first. If we then go into the Windows settings, we'll scroll down to the input and deal with that first. Now this is showing all of the input devices on my computer, and notice how it also includes these ADAT ones. So even though that ADAT mode is turned off, they still show in Windows. What we do have is this mic inst line 1, that is your first 2 XLR ports, and mic line 3.4 is the second 2 XLR port. We also have 5.6 and 7.8, which are the 2 pairs of TRS ports on the back. And we also have the SPDIF in. All of those connections can be connected at the same time, and Windows can listen to all of them separately as stereo pairs. If you're using a DAW, it can see all of those, but you've then got the option to use them as mono inputs. We also have this virtual, which I will come back to in a bit. Moving up to the outputs, this is why I talked about this bypass mode. So what we have is main 1, 2, which is the main pair of TRS outputs, which can be controlled by that volume knob on the front. Then we have 3, 4, and 5, 6, which are the second and third pair of TRS outputs on the back. We also have the SPDIF out, which is that coaxial output on the back. Because we're in bypass mode, if you send anything out to those outputs through Windows, it will go directly to the device that's connected to those ports. So if you connect something to main 1, 2, some studio monitors, whatever you send to main 1, 2 will go straight out to those studio monitors. And the important thing to understand is that the naming convention in Windows is based on the bypass mode. Main 1, 2 is main 1, 2 on the back of the 1810C. However, if we put it back into non-bypass mode, into normal mode, things start to change. These devices don't change name, they stay as they are. Where they go, they, instead of going to the outputs, they instead come into this mixing area. What I've done is highlighted the most important ones. So you can see there that those are all odd numbers. So mic 1, mic 3, mic 5, mic 7. However, that's because they're in pairs. So now if I highlight this, if I highlight one of those channels and click this button, I can turn it into 2 monos. And you can see that that's split that channel into 2. So this microphone is connected to XLR port 1, which is the left of mic 1, 2. So the left is mic 1, the right is 2. This is connected into the left-hand channel of mic 1, 2. For tidiness, I keep those in their pairs. So these first 4 pairs, they are the inputs from the outside. So they're in those, they go into those microphone ports or those TRS in ports. And we also have one there for the SPDIF. The volume slider is right at the bottom there, but the signal is still going to the computer. So the computer will take the signal regardless of the volume you set here. Now you might notice that it says Shure SM58 there on the bottom, and this is my Shure SM58. What I've done is I've moved the port and I've not updated it here. So I could do that now. If I click on that one and we'll rename that, we'll use the same convention that they have. So 3, mic 3. And since I'm not using it, I don't actually need it to be in any color. So I'll just change the color back to gray with this selector up here. And now I want to change this one, so I can click up here and type Shure SM58, and it's changed it down there. I want to change the color, so I click on this one, put it in blue, and there we go. This is a good place to tell you, if you upgrade from Windows 10 to Windows 11, all your settings inside Universal Control will be lost, and it basically resets back to factory, and you'll have to go back through it. Okay, so anyway, so that's our inputs. That's our inputs dealt with. So what about the outputs then? Those output devices that previously went directly to their respective port no longer do. Instead, they come in here on these 4 channels, door 1 through door 7. Again, they're in pairs. You can separate them because they're coming out of the PC. They'll normally come in stereo. I've changed 3 of the colors of them, but I need to change this one as well. It doesn't matter what color. I like to set the ones I can use as different colors so I can easily see them. These first 3 are the outputs main 1, 2, and then the output 2, 3, and 4, 5 come to that there. The SPDIF one, SPDIF out, is door 7. So even though one of them's called main and one of them's called SPDIF, they're not going to main or to the SPDIF output. They're just going here, the same as all of the others. Now we do have some more. There's the MIDI, which I've never used, and Bigger Brother model has more ports. So I assume that's where the rest of them go, but they're completely redundant in this model. Once the signals are into this mixer, you can mix all your inputs with all your outputs, then send them to any of the physical outputs on the device. Over on this side, we have main, and that goes to the main output and the first set of headphones. So whatever you mix here of all your microphones and all of the inputs from the computer will get sent to that physical main output and your first set of headphones. So I've got nothing connected to my main output, but I do have a set of headphones. When I'm at my computer, I don't want to hear myself talking. I only want to hear the outputs from the computer. So I hear these because their volumes are all up and they're being sent to main, which I can hear on these headphones. The microphones are down because I don't want to hear myself speaking. Mix 3.4 is the second set of outputs and the second set of headphones. And you can also hear this mix on the first set of headphones if you click this AB button, which is also present on the front of the device. So you can just press that button and hear the mix. So in this case, I've got Mix 3.4 set up with everything at the same volume. So I said before, I don't want to hear myself speaking, but say I wanted to hear myself speaking. If I just press the AB button on the front of the 1810C, I can then hear the mix of me speaking and the outputs from the computer all together. Mix 5.6 is a third mix, but it only goes to that 5.6 output. There's no headphones. Up here, right at the top, we have the SPDIF, and the SPDIF, when you're not in bypass mode, the SPDIF will be a clone of one of those three mixes. So it doesn't have its own mix. You can't have three mixes and then a fourth one for the SPDIF. You could have two mixes and then have nothing connected to 5.6, but send that to the SPDIF. You could do that. What you can't do, which is really annoying, is send a mix back into the computer. I mean, you can put a cable in the back of it and run it round to the sound card and collect it that way. I mean, you could do that, but you can't do a mix here and send that to the computer. If you want to do that, you could get yourself one of these, which is a Presonus Revelator, which is a microphone with a built-in audio interface, and you can do that sort of mixing. And I'll be doing another video on that at some point in the future. They do a separate Revelator audio interface which doesn't have the microphone. You can take a look at if you're interested. Now what we do have is loopbacks. In the Revelator, which I was just showing you, you can loop back an output mix back into the computer. Not the case here. The loopbacks are good, but they're not as good as that. What you can do is down here in the universal control, there is the loopback options here of virtual or mix 1-2. Now, if you have virtual enabled, you see, as I showed you before, we have virtual in here, and anything you send to main 1-2 will be turned around and come back in as virtual 1-2. So you can take that one channel and turn it round and bring it back in. Now that's useful, but it's not as useful as if it let you do the full mix. So you need to pick one that you want to turn around and bring back in. You might have noticed there was another option, mix 1-2 below. Now, if you set mix 1-2, instead of that virtual input, all that happens is the main 1-2 output that comes in here is mixed with the microphone, and a mic 1-2 has the two things mixed together. I personally can't see why that would be particularly useful. I'll do a separate video on loopbacks and I'll compare it to how it works with the Revelator, because I think the Revelator does it in a much better way, and it's a real shame that this doesn't do it that way. Though it doesn't stop you setting up a multi-track in something like OBS, because OBS can pick up both the inputs and the outputs. I want to do another video on setting up multi-track. There are different ways to do it, but using the 1810C is a really good way to do it, I think. Something that I didn't touch on at all in my older videos is using the iPad. It's not actually available on Android. It is available for the iPad and I assume for the iPhone. Now, providing your audio interface is connected to a PC, which is connected to the same network as your iPad is, this UC Surface app should be able to find your device. And when you look in it, it's the same. All the color things are the same that I've already set up previously on the computer. If I take the slider on the iPad and I slide it down, it adjusts it on the computer, which I think is pretty good. I mean, it's not tactile like a standalone mixing console would be, but it is the next best thing. Anyway, I hope you found this useful and hope it's an improvement on the last video. Please like and subscribe. Any questions, whack them below, and I'll see you in the next one.